Okay, looks like people are loading up. Welcome to NFCA's webinar for February 28th, 2023. Hard to say 2023. That's pretty amazing stuff here. And really glad that you're taking some time to your busy schedule to catch up on really the NFCA accreditation program, more importantly, the UL Contractor program. So let's take a look at our attendee list and make sure that you can hear me. So I'll ask you to raise your hand if you can hear me, then off we'll go. Make sure we got a sound check going. Looks like we got a few hands going up. Cool stuff. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Melvin. RT. Awesome. Good. So people can hear us. That's a good thing. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get started with today's program. So welcome, everyone. Bill McHugh, the Executive Director of the National Fireproofing Contractors Association. Joining me today is going to be Mark St. Onge from UL Solutions. Mark and Ruben Sandoval together manage the UL Qualified Contractor Programs, Fireproofing, SFRM Fireproofing at this time. Eventually, you'll have all the rest of the products added to it too here shortly, probably in the next, well, I won't speak for Mark. I'll let him speak for that. But we'll be adding those programs to it as well. We're going to talk about the NFCA contractor program and the UL contractor program. The two of these work hand in hand to bring the fire resistance industry a great opportunity to have fireproofing installed in the way it's supposed to be installed. So a big thanks to Mark St. Onge for joining us. A big thanks to the NFCA Board of Directors for the time they volunteer as well. Got a conference coming up at the Charlotte, North Carolina, UNC Marriott in Charlotte. Should be a blast. Got a lot going on for that. The hotel cutoff is actually coming up here shortly. March 3rd is when that takes place. So if you're going to come with us, actually not if, when you're going to come to the conference, the NFCA's Week of Learning, load up your hotel and get it set up now. We got some unbelievable rates. I think it's like $169 a night. That's like unheard of today's economy. Everything we've seen is like 200, 220, 240, et cetera, et cetera. Got a great program, special rates at the hotel, all that stuff kind of kicks off here shortly. Also, our Award of Excellence judging takes place by March 6th. That's next week sometime. Email Kristen at nfca-online.org, or you can just go to the homepage of nfca-online.org, and Kristen's got the entries posted there, but we need you to vote on them. Really big thanks to the NFCA Board of Directors for all they do. These are volunteer leaders. They travel once a year to the NFCA's board meetings in the Chicago area is usually where we do it, because we've got people coming from both coasts and north and south. And it works out quite well, north and south. And when I say north, I mean north, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. We've got people in Ontario, got on Edmonton, and we've got people down in Texas as well. So a big thanks to our directors for volunteering their time to work with us and be part of that strategic direction at NFCA. I'm going to spend a little bit more time than normal on kind of some of the things that NFCA does, because there's a ton of stuff that we've done over the last year. And actually over the last, since 2014, almost 10 years, actually. The NFCA really didn't participate at the International Code Council code development hearings, nor at the NFPA code development processes for NFPA 101 and things like that. In the 2018 code development process, we had some proposals. 2021 code development process, we had proposals. We fixed the special inspection section so it reflects what actually happens in the field. Special inspection used to say in the building code that it doesn't take place until after the ceiling grid's in. And you contractors on the line would say, wait a minute, the inspection took place after the ceiling grid is in. That means the mechanicals are in too. And that means if there's a real bad failure of thicknesses or densities, bond strengths, any of the things that are inspected, we're going to have some big troubles getting back up to it to patch it. So the NFCA fixed it and said ongoing visual inspection, and then also an additional inspection after the ceiling grid is in to make sure it's still there. That was done by the ad hoc committee on terrorism resistant buildings, that second piece that I mentioned. I was part of that committee, and I tell you, it was worth spending time on it to make sure that structural steel fireproofing is there when called upon by fire. As a result, we've got some super high-rise buildings that have increased bond strength, got additional inspection of fireproofing that takes place, special inspection, inspecting the substrates, making sure that the fireproofing that got knocked off during the construction process gets put back in. The fire code has language in it that says maintain protection by an annual visual inspection of those members that are visually accessible through an access panel of some kind. I mean, there's a lot that went on in there. I'll go into more of it later, but there's a ton of stuff we've done at the ICC code development process. The big one was saving fire resistance from extinction. You're like, what, Bill? Saving fire resistance from extinction? Yeah, extinction, we did. There was a comment made that fire resistance has been eliminated from the code. Thankfully, I was there to stand up and say, no, it hasn't been eliminated from the code. The name has changed from fire resistance to fire safety in Chapter 1 of the building code under substitutions, alternative designs, if you will, and that fire resistance is still need to be compared with Chapter 7's objectives, which is fire testing to ASTM E119 and UL 263 fire test standards. We've got some real cool stuff going on at ASTM. 3 new standards for fireproofing inspection to take the detail that you find in the building code and put it in the standards. I think it's going to be a good thing, actually. We work at the NFCA or the NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, Fire Protection Features Committee. Got the American Institute of Steel Construction coming down to Charlotte, North Carolina to talk to us about economics. In other words, what they see the construction economy do in the next couple of years. Who better to know what fireproofing is going to look like than the steel industry, who is forecasting what the steel demand is going to be, because a certain amount of a certain percentage of steel gets fireproofed. Certainly we would be able to do better forecasting if we knew what the steel outlook was. We're participating at the National Building Code of Canada's code development process to get special inspection added, and also the UL Qualified Contractor Program added to the National Building Code of Canada as well. Plus, I've been traveling to the Society of Fire Protection Engineers, our team at the code development process, Doug Evans, a former code official from Las Vegas, Rich Walkie, formerly with UL for 43 plus years, providing resources to us, some unbelievable resources actually, both in the code arena and then also in standards knowledge too. 43 years worth. Just think of the number of iterations of the standards updates he's gone through that he's able to share with us. And we're at the National Building Code of Canada too. Cool thing that got launched during COVID was this Handbook of Accepted Fireproofing Knowledge. Again, I take my hat off to a few people. Phil Mancuso was with Isolatech. He gave us all kinds of help there. And then also now with GCP, Applied Technologies, John Dalton, GCP Applied Technologies. Both of them helped us with education during some of the NFCA Contractor Accreditation Program education and exams. And then Rich Welke helped me get this book over the top. I took the raw material that was dictated through a tape machine by Phil and John from our education program, and we took that and expanded it into the Handbook of Fireproofing Knowledge. Rich and I added a whole bunch of stuff in addition to what Phil and John had given us. But they gave us a good base to start from. So a big thanks personally and professionally to both these guys. NFCA members get a $500 discount on this program. And we offer this book free, the Handbook of Fireproofing Knowledge, free to authorities having jurisdiction, and then also specifiers and architects, engineers with design firms and independent specifiers as well. It's a great book. Look for it to be updated over the next 5 years or so. I'm guessing we're going to probably put it in the 2024 schedule to do some updating and additions to it, because any of these books by industries, regardless of the industry, fire stopping, fireproofing, roofing, the handbooks of knowledge have to be updated as things change in the industry. Right now, there's a big discussion about the attachments to structural building elements and how are those handled. We've not been very able to find some super conclusive evidence, so it's going to be interesting to see how we can bring all that together. The NFCA Contractor Accreditation Program, our exams, the education and exams, we've been able to offer virtually starting in COVID. We did it a couple times last year. We'll do it a couple more times this year as well. But really, it's about a focus on fireproofing and gives the opportunity for a company to set itself apart by educating its workforce in a big way. We've had some fireproofing companies send foremen, send superintendents, project managers, estimators to this class, not necessarily to become a DRI, but to learn the fireproofing industry information as best they can. What does it do? It makes for a better company. And then the UL Qualified Fireproofing Contractor Program relaunched in April of 2020. It actually had its start in 2003 through 2007. The former executive director, Hugh Dudley, great guy, laid a great base with NFCA, and I was happy to step in his shoes, not necessarily his, but walk in my own shoes, but take what he developed and grow it. And we've been able to do that. But Hugh did a great job of starting something. He started a great relationship with UL, which we continue to have, and he started the basis of the program. It had some flaws, though, early on. It said in the program requirements, in version 1 of this, not version 2 that we relaunched in April of 2020. We did a big relaunch. Ruben Sandoval did a great job rewriting it along with Matt Schumann. I think it was before Mark St. Onge came on. But what we had to do is take out the section that said that the fireproofing contractor declares that the building's restrained or unrestrained. And that's not the contractor's role. That's the design professional's role. And we pointed that out together, all of us, Matt Schumann, Ruben Sandoval, and I, that in the building code it says the building design professional is responsible for declaring restrained or unrestrained. And we had several other pieces, components that needed to get updated as well. And I can't tell you how cooperative these guys were to work with and how good it was to bring out the new program in April of 2020. And we've got a few contractors that are going through their audits of their management system program, not really audits, but a review of the management system program to get themselves UL qualified. We're seeing specifications show up in the field that are requiring UL qualified SFRM fireproofing contractors to be installing the work in buildings. So I'm not going to say much other than that, knowing that Mark St. Onge is going to spend a whole bunch of time taking you through the UL Qualified Fireproofing Contractor Program and a bit about the Management System Manual. Know that the NFCA Award of Excellence is going on. The entry deadline was January 31, 2023, so all the entries are in. Just go to nfca-online.org to go vote. We need contractors and inspection agencies to go vote and choose the entry they feel is worth winning for the NFCA Award of Excellence. These are project profiles that are submitted by the contractors as being unique for safety, unique for operations, and unique to the fireproofing industry. Pretty cool stuff. Don't miss our week of learning. That comes up in about 3 weeks, actually a month, if you think about it. We're at February 28th, so 28 days from now is when we'll kick off the NFCA Week of Learning with the education and exams 27, 28, and 29. Then we've got a software education program with some tabletops from our manufacturer partners, from the software people. It's really going to give you a chance to walk around and talk to people about software opportunities for contractors for both project management and also estimating. Should be a good time. So if you haven't made your reservations, remember the hotel cutoff date is Friday, March 3rd. That's later this week. And the rates are unreal. $159, really? That's absolutely incredible. So what does NFCA do? World-class education, accreditation programs from both UL and NFCA. The NFCA is the pathway to get to the UL Qualified Contractor Program. Got to pass that UL or the NFCA, you got to pass the NFCA education and exams for SFRM to get yourself to the qualified SFRM program from UL. The week of learning is going to be a good time. Our standards, the NFCA 100 and 400, are constantly used by contractors as a proof source of what they need for the general contractor to set up for them various things. Heat, staging areas for materials. Think of it, who tells the general contractor to do that? They're like, we don't do that for anybody. Well, the NFCA says you do, and here's the standards for it, the NFCA 100 through 400. Our technical expertise between Rich and I has been quite deep, and we've been able to help a lot of contractors, specifiers, our friends, the manufacturers as well, and they help us, all of them. And then also working with others on our contractor and inspection agency members on what's required when it comes to fireproofing standards and codes too. NFCA's website's pretty well populated. The NFCA, every year we try to re-record this, and this time I think we've got it down pat and done it just right. Rich Walkie and I do this. Rich drives the bus mainly on this one to cover the deep dark secrets of ASTM E119, UL 263, and of course the Canadian version of UL 263, the ULCS 101. This is the grandfather to all fire resistance standards. The fire resistance standards are all based on the same time temperature curve, 0 to 1,000 degrees in about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, and then out to 2 hours in about out to 2,000 degrees in 4 hours, a little under that in 2 hours. So really amazing stuff. And this is what you can use, whether you are a contractor, manufacturer, inspection agency, people don't understand fire resistance and the testing. You know, maybe they're submitting a product that only has small scale testing for horizontal surfaces, which is not allowed, frankly. The explanation as to why that's not allowed is in this webinar. So if you're a member, big thanks. Appreciate all you do, appreciate your dues, because it allows us to do what we're going to do all the time, whether it's at the International Code Council, the ASTM meetings coming up in April in Denver, NFPA's Fire Protection Features Committee, the AISC, the American Iron Institute of Steel Construction meetings. We're everywhere. Info at nfca-online.org or Kristen at nfca-online.org. If you're not a member, join up. A lot of good things too in standards. I mentioned some of these already. Just know that we're out doing our thing, making sure that the NFCA and fireproofing, that their name is known widely at the code development processes. So what I want to do now is take a minute and turn the slides over to Mark St. Ange and let Mark drive the bus about fire resistance in buildings and specifically the UL Qualified Contractor Program and the details of how that works. They've got a great program that they've developed. They've worked very hard as a partner of the fireproofing industry to make it work, and off we'll go. So Mark, one quick thing. You're in presenter view on the slides, so maybe swap screens. There you go. Well done. Perfect. And if you've got a camera, feel free to turn it on, and then off we'll go.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Can you hear me good?
A little bit louder would be great, and if you've got a camera so we can see it, that'd be super.
Yeah, no problem. Just trying to figure out the speaker or the microphone part. Let me see if I can change the microphone to this one.
Yeah, microphone.
Is that a little bit better?
Yeah, just outside voice is all you got to do.
Okay. There's that, and the camera should be on, but let me just double check that. How's that? Bill?
Perfect, Mark. Well done.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks. Welcome, everybody. Happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity, Bill. Always love working with you guys as an organization and having the ability to present with you all. So we're here today just kind of talking about the UL Qualified SFRM contractor program, which will develop out into the IFRM eventually here. We just got to build it one block at a time. We got a really good question about this program from one of your big members here recently, starting to see it in some of the specifications. So they're looking at joining because of a large project that requires it. So it is coming about. You will start to see it more and more as one of the requirements. And this gives you the ability to set yourself apart from your competition to show that you really know what you're doing. So from the program, as we've gone through the relaunch here that Bill was talking about from version 1.0 to 2.0 that we're on now, we'll call it, my boss, Ruben Sandoval, who's the program manager, and I'm the technical lead that helps run the day-to-day stuff. So most of the stuff comes through my hands at some point, and then He kind of keeps an eye on the fire side of the program, both the Qualified Fire Stop Contractor Program, the SFRM project program, along with our special inspection team, NFCA 80 annual door inspections, and a number of other issues and programs that we kind of run. I also sit on ASTM EO621 with Bill and some of the other contractors and everybody else there. Do a lot of our ASJ training and things of that nature. So what we've got going on today, get this thing just click through. What is the UL Qualified SFRM Contractor Program? Well, we've gotten into that a little bit with Bill, but we'll talk a little more on that, what the benefits of the program are and the process to become it. And it's not as invasive as you would think. You know, becoming a qualified SFRM contractor means you're probably already doing some great stuff if you're even looking at this program, but we're going to take that and we're going to ask you to put it in writing, to document it, to maintain those records so that we can see and we can verify the quality that you're doing. No one is expected to be perfect and without any kind of issues in this program. We're always going to see some issue here or there, and we understand that. We're not here to beat you up because there was one failed test result somewhere as far as how far your thickness was during an application. This is not a special inspection of your installations. This is a qualified contractor program where it's quality management system based. So we're asking you to develop processes and procedures to make sure that you are performing at a quality level, and to document all those things so that we can go through and verify that. The process starts with going ahead and taking that NFCA fireproofing exam to designate a DRI, or a designated responsible individual. A DRI is required at each operating location that gets qualified by us. So if you have locations in multiple cities, the only qualified locations would be those ones that you say, hey, I want to get, you know, my location in Phoenix, Arizona qualified, but I'm not going to go ahead just yet and qualify my one in Atlanta maybe. So you would have to have a DRI on board at that Phoenix location, but you know, as you move down the line and you grow and you expand and hopefully, you know, add on to those other locations, you'd have to have DRIs there. And we need a DRI at every single individual location, not one DRI that tries to oversee multiple. We just don't believe it's feasible for you to be overseeing everything in multiple cities, multiple projects, to the level that you need to have that quality management system at. If you're looking at all those different locations, so you're really going to be overseeing one area, and you'll have DRIs at other locations. So you take the test. The test is based off of that NFCA Handbook of Fireproofing Knowledge and the UL Fire Resistance Directory, now known as Product IQ, and some of those guide infos that go along with that. Once you get through that test, then you go ahead and develop a quality management system. And when you develop that quality management system, there's individual elements there that you have to appease, more or less, right? So do you have training? So you need to go through and identify, you know, you train your people, and this is the requirement that you're going to train them to, and you're going to have to maintain records showing that you do that. Maintaining records of projects, what projects you've done, what products you've used, who installed what where, those kinds of pieces to that need to be maintained. You know, if there's ever anything down the line where something happens in a building and you don't have a record to show what you did or where you did it or how you did it, what was installed, what systems were used, you've got a problem there. So our program is helping you to document that, to maintain that information for use later on down the line if you ever need it. The whole purpose of this project or program is not to beat you up. It's to help you grow your business. You know, if you look at this stuff and you find non-conformances, and you're able to trace back those non-conformances based off the records that we're requiring you to maintain, then you can also look at your employees and evaluate them. You can evaluate their performance level, their knowledge level, how much training you need, where your failures are occurring, what systems are not easily installed and have more findings than others. So by using this program and looking at the data that you're collecting off of it, if you're using this program as intended, can be massive. It can really help you grow your program from a quality aspect and just a business aspect to where you're seeing the needs coming from and where you're seeing the needs of your people and your projects going to. So becoming a qualified contractor underneath us at Underwriters Laboratories, or now UL Solutions, allows you a credential that you can utilize on these projects when you bid them. And you can say, I'm better than my competition because I've got this qualification. This is not an internal thing that we've done. This is not something else. This is a qualified third-party entity. This is UL that's given me a certification for my company at company level for this operating location that indicates that we know what we're doing, we do it good, and we maintain those records to prove it. If you follow this, it's not just that piece of paper though. The real impact here is going to be all that stuff that you are, all that data, all those records that you're maintaining. You're able to reach back into those previous projects, into those files and those records, and provide them to this next project and say, hey, look, this is what we've done. This is what works here. We've got this experience. We've got this knowledge. We've interacted with these other facilities, these building officials, these AHJs, these architects, engineers. These folks know us. They know we're good because we've done all these other projects. And I can show you the records of it. And I can show you our inspection reports. We've got a quality control plan. We've got people on staff that's job is to go through and make sure that everything's being done right and document it. So if I do have an issue on a job site, I've got a process to fix that, fix it immediately, and move forward without having to worry about that anymore. So that corrective action and that corrective action to fix what was wrong, plus the fact that you're going to fix it moving forward and prevent it from happening again. So preventative actions also are a big selling point to make sure that your stuff is right and that they don't have to worry about you on that project, because those delays from failed inspections cost them money and time, and those impacts are massive. So you having this and being able to show you're going to do it right and you're not going to have those massive impacts of those projects is just a tool that's so valuable to these projects to be able to say, look, I know I'm good here. I've got a contractor that knows their stuff that's going to keep us on time, on schedule, and in budget. That's your biggest selling point right there. Everything else, they're not really worried about if you can do that stuff. So our program requirements here, like we talked about, employ at least one designated responsible individual per operating location that gets qualified by us. We really do hope you try to do more than one. You know, we saw things during the days of COVID, where a person was incapacitated or no longer able to work. You know, you've got that backup plan right there. You've got somebody else that can step in and fill that void. So that's a big thing that we want to make sure that you consider doing. If you don't have that on staff, then you've got 120 days from the day that you lose your DRI to get another one in place. And we ask that you immediately notify us that that has happened, so we can work with you to get somebody else there trained up and qualified. To become a DRI, you got to take the NFCA fireproofing exam and score an 80% or higher on the exam. Easy enough. A lot of you folks are trained, qualified. You've been doing this for 20 plus years, and you've got that NFCA fireproofing book of knowledge that's going to help you with that exam. So shouldn't be too difficult for you all on that aspect. Then you create a quality management system. There's I'm sure Bill's probably got something on NFCA that helps you do that. I know that they've got something on the fire stop side of the house that helps some folks develop that program. You have all the individual elements you've got to maintain, and you're going to take a book and you're going to show chapter by chapter, and there's just a few points you've got to hit. This is what that requirement is. This is how we hit that mark. You know, this is how we make sure that we are to that quality level. So your process for doing that and how you're going to document that. You're probably already doing it. So the only thing we're asking for you to do is to document that you're doing it, to put it on paper, to show this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm doing it, and maintain that record. Once you get that done, we come in and we do that initial audit. That initial audit is going to get through that whole process with you. Takes about half a day or so to go through. We're going to ask that you send over your quality management system for our auditors to evaluate ahead of time. That'll give you some feedback. Schedule your audit. You sit down with them at the time. They're going to ask you to provide the documentation, those records, that evidence of compliance during that audit. Once you provide that to them and they're able to verify that you have that, then they sign off on it. You go to a job site, show the process in action. Part of that is going through and saying, all right, it says here in this record that on this project you're doing this. Show me that you're doing it. Show me, show me how you do that. Show me that you do that to your processes. Then go ahead and do a quality control check. You're going to go through, not the special inspector, not the auditor. You're going to check to see that people are doing things the right way, and you're going to document it, and you're going to show us how you document that for your quality management system. If you have no findings, that's fine as long as you've documented it. If you have findings, you've got to go through your corrective action process to fix what's been done wrong and correct it so it won't happen again down the line. So corrective action and preventative actions, and implement that and document it, and you'll keep moving on through. There's going to be times where you're found to be doing something wrong. Like I said, nobody's perfect, not 100% of the time. And that's okay, as long as we're going through our process, we're documenting it, we're putting those actions in place, and we're following those to keep them from happening again. The issue is more of when we find a problem and we fix it as a corrective action, but we don't implement a preventative action, and it continues to happen time and time again. So if you follow this process and you follow the program requirements, you won't have that happening again, so we don't have that problem. But when we have it happening time and time again, that's where we see issues. So the value of the management system is consistency. It's effective control of key processes. It's the project management aspect from the folks in the office gets from an overwhelming task that they're stressed out working tons of hours to something that is a lot easier to do, takes a lot less overhead from time, reduces your headaches, gets the quality in the field up, and you're going to see a massive improvement in your staff's both performance and hopefully your financial metrics too, right? Because we're not just doing this for fun, we're doing this to improve our businesses. So once you get that stuff down, you're going to see a lot of clients hopefully happier with your performance and see a lot more business being driven your way. You'll also have the ability to qualify for projects where you're starting to see the specifications driving a requirement for this. And getting ahead of this now is great. If you wait till the time where you're trying to bid a project and you need this qualification at the drop of a dime, that becomes a lot more difficult. Is it that we can't do that? No. If you come to us and you say, hey, look, I've taken the test, I've got a quality management system, I need to be qualified in the next 2 weeks, we'll make it happen. We'll jump through the hoops and we'll help you out. But it makes it a lot easier to do if we've got the time, we've got a month to work through the process, to provide you the feedback on your manual, to say, hey, look, if I see this is going on in your manual, but I just don't understand this, and give you the opportunity to take that feedback or say, hey, there's a requirement of this and I don't see it in your manual. Maybe you want to address that prior to your audit. It makes that audit a whole lot cleaner and easier to go through. So take the time, get ahead of the stuff now rather than trying to haphazardly throw something together at the last minute that you're not going to be able to follow. Put something together that you're going to have the time to really put the quality into and get the quality out of. So identifying your key steps here, you got to identify the process you need, the sequence, the interaction, the effectiveness of it, and all the resources you need to create this quality management system. This is in essence what you need, but in reality, what you got to make sure you do is you got to capture these 10 management system elements. These are the elements or the chapters in your quality management system. 10 simple elements that we just need to document. This is the requirement, this is how you're meeting it, and here is the documentation that proves it. So say what you're going to do and do what you're going to say. This is simply what that is. Element 1, construction documentation review, requirements and review. Are you looking at the construction documents and determining what the requirements are? And are you putting together a proposal based off of those requirements that meets those requirements? And have you documented it? So do you have a sheet there that says this is the project, this is what it needs, this is what we're using, this is why, or this is why we're substituting something else because of other needs. Maybe a specifier didn't know what they needed and you're helping to educate them, and that's great. Just document that. Procurement of SFR materials. Are we using real materials? Are we using the products that we're supposed to? Are we procuring them from a legitimate source? Do they have the right markings for the nationally recognized testing laboratories on them? Are we using systems? Are we storing these materials in the correct way? Are we putting these materials into temperature controlled environments? Are we leaving them, these dry materials that need to stay dry, and we're putting them outside in the freezing cold and snow and ice and rain? We need to make sure we have processes to control these things so everything is installed correctly. The The manufacturers do a lot of really good hard work to develop these systems and these products to perform in the way we need them to. If we go down the line though, and we start doing things wrong with the products, storing them wrong, installing them wrong, or changing some designs, the end result may not be compliance. It may not be that safe environment that we're trying to create with the protection of the steelwork, right? We want to make sure that these buildings are properly protected and maintained. So to do that, we need to remember that if we started here on this line, and we know that if we follow it directly down, we're going to get to where we need. But somewhere down that line, someone changes something. Well, that performance of those products may differ quite dramatically at this point. So we need to remember to follow these requirements. They're not always all in the systems themselves. The systems are how things go together in certain steps, but at the same time, we need to remember that the manufacturer's installations instructions and those product data sheets are valuable tools that we need to remember to follow. It's not going to tell you on the listing to clean out the area and to make sure it's free of dust and debris, but if you look at the product data sheet and the installation instructions, it's going to tell you that you need to do that so it'll bond together. So remember to look through all those different pieces, procure the right materials, store them in the right way, make sure that there's a quality control process that you've got implemented. Make sure you're doing some inspection during that. You're both doing the quality control as it's being applied and the inspecting and testing of it afterwards. Make sure if you find anything wrong, we're identifying it and we're controlling that, whether it's the products before they're installed or after they're installed, we realize something was done wrong. We determine, all right, this was non-conforming and now we need to do something with it. We've got to make sure we train staff. We've got to have those corrective and preventative actions. And we've got to make sure we have the continuous monitoring and improvement of our program going through. And most importantly of all, no matter what, if you're doing everything right, but you're not documenting it, then you just didn't do it in our mind. So make sure you're documenting it and you're keeping those records as we move forward. So during your audit, what do you expect? We're going to come to your office. We're going to do a complete quality audit of your office of your management system, and we're going to go to the job site like we already talked about. At the end of it, what the plan is to issue you this contractor certificate, right? And this certificate applies to the business. This is for the company at the qualified location. So you would get a certificate that says, hey, we're a qualified contractor. Here's my certificate. You're provided that via PDF in an email, and it's also provided on Product IQ next to your listing page. Under the CCN there on the authorized service providers, you'll see your company listed, you'll see your certificates, you'll see any MAC certificates located next to those. All those documents will be there for everyone to see. So very important that you go through the process so we can provide you this certificate. You may have a finding on your audit, which you will not be provided a certificate if you're provided a finding until you clear the finding, until you go through your process, correct everything, fix it, and work through to the satisfaction of your auditor. So if we go through an audit and you're not clean, there is no immediate certificate until you've fixed everything in your program to our satisfaction. With that, you can also apply for a MAC certificate or a Master Audit Certificate of Compliance as a qualified installer. Those certificates are for a structure and they have a 1-year expiration date. The benefit of that is the code, as Bill was talking about, requires annual maintenance. It's great if you can go in these businesses the first time and put the product on, but we've all seen that just during the construction process, how much stuff gets goofed up by the end. Well, a year down the line, it didn't get better, it got worse. And we need to make sure that you have the ability as a qualified contractor to get back in the building, have a justification to get in there and say, hey, look, I need to double check that everything's still right so you're code compliant. So you use your MAC certificates as that foot in the door. Say, hey, I was here before, I issued you a certificate from UL, and we want to give you another one to cover you for another year to be code compliant. So let's get back in here, let us in to do a job site walk, verify that everything's right. If something's wrong, we'll fix it, and then we'll bring UL in to issue another year's MAC certificate. We provide that to you as a qualified contractor at a cost, and then you can determine what cost you provide that to the end user or building owner at. So those MAC certificates are also another big thing that both gets the building protected and gets you in there to do those annual maintenance inspections. Here's my contact info. You can reach me at either the fire.inspection@ul.com email address, which is an email address that both myself and Ruben have access to, or my email address at work, the mark.st.onge@ul.com, and that's my company cell phone number. If you need something from us, call. You know, we do answer the phone, we answer emails, we try to be as responsive as possible. Typically same day, if not, then the next day, next business day, you can expect to hear from us. And if you're not getting anything from me and you send it to that fire.inspection email address, I can promise you my boss is going to be calling me asking me why I didn't get back to you immediately. So give me the chance, shoot it to me first, give me that opportunity, but I can promise you that that's your recourse to say, hey, look, Mark's not getting back to me. So I'll give you that email address, or I'll give you Ruben's email address if you want it, or his phone number. You know, I know a lot of folks don't provide their boss's email address for you to go and complain to if you're not getting the service you want, but I'm confident that our team is going to provide the service to you that you deserve. So I'm confident in giving that to you at any time. And if you don't think you're getting the service you deserve, then please reach out to them and tell them, you know, we can't fix what we don't know is broken. So let us know where we can help.
Cool stuff, Mark. Really appreciate that. Nice work. And then also appreciate the personal touch that you put in, also giving your boss's email address there too. That's pretty cool stuff. I really appreciate what you do. Like, hopefully my screen is showing, you can see the website there as well, right?
Yep.
Okay, so take a look at this. When we look at the fireproofing contractor list, the NFCA contractor list, left-hand side, we've already got something built here for UL qualified contractors in addition to what Mark has. I mean, the UL Product IQ is a cool place to go, but this also is where we list the UL qualified contractors. You know, Mark and his group give us a list of who's qualified, and that's where we keep that list of contractors in addition to what Mark has as well. It's really cool stuff, and really glad to be able to do that. The UL program is really something special. It's really something as a fireproofing contractor company you ought to look into if you haven't looked into it already. I know a couple of larger contractors have, but you know, don't think that this is just a big contractor program. Other programs that Mark and Ruben manage have smaller contractor companies that are involved in this that are not very big. You know, a couple people in the office and a few guys and ladies in the field. It's not a monster. It's something that's quite manageable. And as Mark said, it's your program. It's not his program that he gives you and says, here, you operate your business to look like mine. That's not what Mark does. What Mark does is says, you tell me how you operate your business in a management system manual. It doesn't have to be super extensive and crazy. Just have to follow those 10 points that Mark laid out earlier. Those 10 points are what you need to address, and that's what Mark and Ruben audit your company against. You know, tell them how you purchase materials for projects. Maybe your purchase order says, master purchase order for the year, all the bags or pails have the UL mark on it for UL listings. All of them are a certain, you know, brand new, original unopened containers, and maybe the lot number is tracked as well. So, you know, he'll then come back in and say, okay, show me your purchase order that shows me that you've done that. It's really what they do. You know, it's not about Mark telling you what to do, and he doesn't. I mean, he's just a great coach helping you and your company get through that program to make your company the best it can be. Because what it's used for is, first and foremost, a safe building, making the fire resistance rated assembly work the way it was supposed to because it was installed in accordance with the listing and the manufacturer's instructions. Those two words, or those two groups of words, I guess I would say, come right out of the International Building Code, Chapter 17, and they come out of the International Building Code, Chapter 7. Both places. They're going to inspect in accordance with the listing and the manufacturer's installation instructions. You're going to install in accordance with that too. So, you know, the procedures that you use to get that done, that's really what Mark is looking at as the UL qualified contractor program. And then once you're in, it gives you a pedigree, something you can use to separate yourself from the other competition that's out there. He mentioned the MAC certificate, the Master Certificate of Compliance. That's a really cool thing. I've had friends in other parts of the world that are qualified contractors tell me that this has helped them in many, many ways. Some unethical contractors, general contractors, might get somebody to sign off and say, yep, the project's complete when you're only 75% done, and then say, okay, you're done, see you, bye, and we're not going to pay you for the next 25% of stuff. That MAC certificate is only issued to your company as a qualified contractor. And if the specification demands that Master Certificate of Compliance, or if you've convinced the general contractor that they have, the building owner has to have it, or the specifier's got it in there, UL only issues it to you. And if somebody says you're done, you can say, no, it requires a Master Certificate of Compliance. I'm not done. And I've not been paid for this project. When you're paid, you provide the certificate. It's huge. It is a huge thing, I think, for the life safety of the building, first of all, to make sure it gets done and done properly. And then secondly, a possible advantage for the fireproofing contractor that has a certificate that's required. And then the third piece Mark mentioned was existing buildings. You know, once you finish a new construction project, it's like, okay, let's go on to the next one. But every year, somebody probably during that year knocks off the fireproofing off of the beams somewhere or off a column someplace. And the International Fire Code, as I've mentioned, requires annual visual inspection. These master certificates are scheduled to expire every year, which gives the building owner an excuse to call you, the fireproofing contractor, in to take a look at the fireproofing, make sure it's still there every year. And then you can reissue the certificate, obviously for a fee that you might have to mark up a bit. You know, it's a great, great program, as is the UL Qualified Contractor Program. So, you know, I'm quite bullish on it. I think it can provide our industry some real proof. You know, we were, as an industry, looked at pretty closely after the 9/11 attacks by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And our industry worked together with the Ad Hoc Committee on Terrorism Resistant Buildings to beef up the inspection. Inspection is good, but the other part of it is the installation. You've got to have good installation, good inspection to make the right value for the building owner and manager. And that's what we've been trying to focus on with the UL Contractor Program, the NFCA accreditation program. Both of these pieces are ways to hopefully improve the product quality, the application quality, the personnel knowledge of the people in the program. The NFCA program is really a stepping stone to the UL. It's not a substitute at all. It can't substitute because they're totally different programs. All the NFCA program does is check your knowledge and make sure that you've got people that have gone through the education, make sure you have some procedures, but it's not audited. You know, UL does the audited piece. And there's another piece is that the UL program is a third-party program. Certainly NFCA is a bit third-party, and our exam is well recognized by UL and others worldwide. But just know that once you add that UL pedigree, it adds a third-party separation from a nationally recognized testing laboratory that's also worldwide. I spent the last 3 weeks traveling: Riyadh, Saudi Arabia; Dubai, United Arab Emirates; Doha, Qatar; Mumbai, India; Gandhinagar, India. And I saw UL people everywhere. You know, each one of the places I was at, there was somebody with a UL Solutions logo on their shirt that I spent time with to talk to them about this program and the NFCA as well. It's really good stuff. The NFCA program has both the SFRM and the IFRM currently. You know, we've got the DRI is what we manage. We make sure to keep up with your CEUs. You know, we're pinging you to remind you to turn in your continuing education to us so that every 3 years we can make sure you're current. The NFCA fireproofing exam is your way to prove that you're a designated responsible individual and have knowledge to manage the fireproofing operations of your company. That's all Mark looks at from the UL Contractor Program, is your fireproofing operations. Not going to look at your waterproofing or fire stopping or any of those other operations, and of course you bring them in for the fire stopping. It's just going to look at your fireproofing operations. The NFCA program has some logos. You get listed at the NFCA website. It's based on the fact that the DRI has been involved in fireproofing, and they passed the exam at the 80% level, 30 credits every 3 years, 30 hours worth of education on fire resistance, fireproofing, safety and building codes, educational conferences. If you don't have them, you can just retake the exam every 3 years. And we've got it offered, the exam actually is offered online as well at NFCA's learning management system. Also look for a reference from each one of the suppliers for when you go for this contractor accreditation program, 1 DRI for every location, consistent with the UL program. And then, you got 4 months to put a new person in if somebody disappears from your company. The applicable documents, certainly the inspection document, the NFCA 123-400, and the study guide for the exams is the NFCA Handbook of Accepted Fireproofing Knowledge. We've got a great book that we put together. It took us a few years to assemble it, actually. I think we did the first typing, if you will, of it in 2017, and then launched it in 2020. But it's a great book. It's got quite a good outline, even covers petrochemical facilities, the UL 1709, if you will, type fire exposure, rather than just the ASTM E119, which would be known as a cellulosic fire exposure. Covers code requirements, covers the UL Online IQ, Product IQ. If you haven't been there, I'm sure everyone on the call has. I mean, there's many fireproofing contractors here that's just an invaluable tool to find what we need to find when it comes to fire resistive materials, whether it's intumescent or spray. And you heard me just say fire resistive materials. International Building Code used to say, as of the 21 code, fire resistant materials. And we know that fireproofing is not an ant, it's a resistive. And the resistive has been changed for the 2024 version of the International Building Code. Secondly, the NFCA put a code proposal in to change the name of intumescent coatings and mastics and coatings to intumescent fire resistive materials. It took me 2 cycles to get that done, believe it or not. But the building code officials on the code committee said, yep, this is fireproofing, this isn't paint. And we want to call it intumescent fire resistant materials and not paint. So it's going to take us a while to get that into the culture of the code official, the culture of our fireproofing industry too. UL's already made the move to help change things. Not 100% of the things are changed yet because the listings are owned by the manufacturers of fireproofing and not UL. They can't just go in and change stuff. They have to wait until the manufacturer does that for them. So, don't blame UL for that. Make sure you look at the right person to give blame for that kind of stuff. So fire resistant materials has changed, and a lot of other things too. The new Chapter 8 for quality management systems. I believe I already made that, put it into the, nope, it's under development, that's right. So this is my work for 2023 late and 2024 early. And we'll cover the quality management systems, but there's a whole bunch more stuff. As you can see here, this is my work list for the Handbook of Fireproofing Knowledge in the near future. It gives me my work plan for the next 5 years. You gotta love that, right? And off we go. So just to wrap things up, the NFCA Contractor Accreditation Program was built as a stepping stone for the UL Qualified Fireproofing Contractor Program. Prior to me coming on, the NFCA worked with UL, and the program didn't quite turn out the way they wanted. What's cool is that UL didn't just say, hey, go away, we'll never talk to you guys again. They said, yeah, let's have that conversation. Let's talk about how it can work for your industry and make a difference for fire resistance in buildings and adjust it so it makes sense for your industry. I mean, that's like a breath of fresh air when you think about it in a big company. I mean, UL's a $1 billion company organization with one not-for-profit owner and a couple of for-profit corporations underneath it, UL Solutions, and then the testing, and then also the fire research. Mark, you can tell more about that better than I can, but it's 3 other organizations underneath it. But it's an impressive place. And the NFCA is the fire resistance industry for structural. We're a smaller association. We're not a monster like the drywall organizations or the roofing contractors with 4,000 members. We're a smaller organization, but what we are is very focused at one thing, and that's fire and life safety through structural steel fireproofing. Getting it right the first time, educating our membership, trying to get more members to join the association so that they figure out that this is fire resistance to be respected. And it's going to be more important as we move forward, because intumescent fire resistant materials are here to stay. And some of the people that install fire resistant materials, intumescent ones, might come from an industry that doesn't necessarily know about the listings. Fireproofing people are just nuts when it comes to the listings. Do you have its listing for that beam, that column, that roof assembly, that floor assembly? That's the questions that the fireproofing person is asking. The coatings person is saying, how thin can I make this in order to get the right color and to make it stay there for the life cycle of the building? They're not thinking about fireproofing. So we really think that this program, the UL Qualified Fireproofing Contractor Program, as it morphs into IFRM, and the NFCA Contractor Accreditation Program, the NFCA education exams, is the way to make sure the industry knows what it's supposed to do and fulfills what that terrorism resistant building committee that I served on, frankly, from 2000, I was on it 2008 through 11, and that committee existed from 03 through 11. And I attended most of the meetings, even when I wasn't on that committee. And their intent was improve the application of fire resistant materials. That's exactly what we're doing, if you think about it from the big picture. Mark, you got some thoughts there?
No, thank you very much. I'm wondering if anybody has any questions about the program from the audience. If you do, please, feel free to throw them in the chat, or I don't know if they can raise a hand or speak out. I'm not sure how the webinar is set up.
Let me get digging into the question box here. Here we go. First one is, how does the AHJ get a copy of the free handbook of fireproofing knowledge? Really simple. Just send an email to info@nfca-online.org. It's right there on the screen, info@nfca-online.org. Send an email on your signature thing that shows that you're at AHJ, and we'll get you a PDF copy of it. That's a service that the NFCA does to the code officials and specifiers, because we know what your budget is for resources like this, probably zero. And we appreciate that we're able to do that. The next question is, will the certificate of attendance be issued by postal mail or by email? We'll send that via email to you after the program. Give us 10 days or so, could be sooner, to get that to you. Next question, is there any UL system guideline for steel truss fireproofing in the steel structure building? So the system design guideline would be basically the UL Product IQ, don't you think, Mark? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like if you're looking for a listing or a system, then going to Product IQ, pulling that up, and searching for those systems there, and then if you've got some questions as to the general fire resistance pieces where you can find common exceptions and pieces like that, there's the guide infos, right? So most of your fireproofing materials are listed under a CCN, or a category code number of CHPX. But if you typed in chpx.guideinfo with no spaces, you're going to come up with the generals for it, right? The listing is specific. The generals is, spell out all the chpx.guideinfo. The listing itself is the specific stuff for that listing. But if you type in the chpx.guideinfo and you search that, then you're going to find all the generic stuff about SFRM. There's a few other places to look for some of those generic things. BYBU, guide info is another piece for some of that, along with the general fire resistance overall, which would be for BXUV guide info. And the BXUV guide info is the most searched item on Product IQ every single year by far, according to the analytics that I at least get to see. So right here, Bill's pulling up a listing, and once you pull up the listing, you can click on the category CHPX, and and then BXUV is the general for all of fire resistance, which will include SFRM, intumescent paint, fire stop. It'll include a lot of additional general pieces. BYBU though has a lot of really, really good information that I think for SFRM is very BYBU, which you might have to search in there. Yep. So that's going to tell you when you need to use the lath or pieces like that. So it's going to have a lot more detailed pieces in there that you probably want to look at. The very top, Bill, is where it's got it. There you go. You go all the way to the top. Yep, there you go. Guide info BYBU. There you go. Click that there, and then that's going to give you some more specific pieces to the listings, or general pieces to the different listings, and the general requirements there also. Bill and some of the other great manufacturer members are also working with us at ASTM to get out some more updated ASTMs for the special inspection. Currently, folks are working off of the AWCI 12A and 12B manuals. Those technical manuals are great, but we're looking to create the full-on ASTMs for the special inspection there of SFRM and intumescent paints. So we've got those coming out too. So just some great references for you guys on this stuff, guys and gals. And you know, the other great selling point besides just the UL program and obviously my great looks and Ruben's great looks, right, is the fact that you get to call us if you got questions, and we'll try to help you out with those things too.
Cool. Well said there, Mark. Thank you. Looking up for more questions. Not seeing any. Just you know, a couple quick notes. We got people, just for your information, Mark, that are on the webinar from Dubai, Doha, Bangladesh, India. We've got a pretty wide reach when it comes to the NFCA, and really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to be part of this. So I'm looking up the question box. I'm not seeing any further questions. Just a big thanks from people for us hopping on and doing this. A big thank you to Mark St. Onge from UL as well, to make sure that, or to join us for this program. Appreciate you carving out some time out of your busy schedule, whether it's you know, chasing special inspection opportunities, fire doors, or doing audits on the UL qualified SFRM contractor program, or the UL qualified fire stop contractor program. We really appreciate all you do for the industry. You know, in addition to that, I know you're out banging the doors on the AHJs and providing some great presentations to them, whether it's the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, the Army, federal government, doesn't matter. Yeah. Somebody asks, Mark hops a car if it's in his area, or you know, if he's in the area for an airplane thing, he'll hop on and do a program for you. He does a nice job too, so you know, keep that in mind too. So I didn't put your contact info on here. I probably should. Sorry about that. Let's jump it up like this, and it's just leave it up here for a second. Whoops. And it's mark.saintonge@ul.com.
That's correct, sir.
Perfect.
And if you want, my company cell phone number is well
804
is 804-243-3646. Feel free to give a call. You know, yes, we'll do anything. I live in Palm Coast, Florida, but do a lot of things remotely via some webinar stuff, and we've even done, you know, I'll hop on a plane as needed and go do some education. I think 2 weeks ago I was in Phoenix. Next week I'm in Colorado for a conference. 2 weeks after that I'm in Seattle for WABO. So we'll be doing some stuff there. So traveling around, got stuff coming up for a bunch of building officials, and whether they be state, local. Yes, we got some stuff coming up for the U.S. Navy. Kind of look at my calendar here. We've got some healthcare stuff coming up. Got just a number of different presentations we're doing. I'm traveling quite a bit for a lot of these, but we'll get a lot of them knocked out, and hopefully we'll be working with you all here soon too.
Sounds great, Mark. Really appreciate it. Not seeing any further questions, so why don't we go ahead and sign off on behalf of the National Fireproofing Contractors Association Board of Directors. the Accreditation Committee, and also Mark as well. My name's Bill McHugh, Executive Director of the National Fireproofing Contractors Association. Thanks everyone for attending. We'll look forward to seeing you next month. Thanks again, Mark. See you, everyone.
Thanks.